Hi, my name is Dan, and in this video I'm going to talk about control flow in visual scripting for blueprints for Unreal Engine. And this is part of a series of videos that I'm doing, which are introduction to scripting and the scripting concepts in the Unreal Engine for blueprint scripting, and which are intended for people who have not seen this stuff before, and potentially for people who haven't actually done much or any programming either. So the idea is to go through these concepts quite slowly and carefully, and to help you get a really good grasp of what's going on in the scripting. And the setup I've got here is I've got a third-person template project that I've created, and I've got a little platform that can be stood on, which is kind of related to the platform that I've had in previous videos in this series. But if you haven't seen those, don't worry if you're just jumping in here. So this is a blueprint which we're going to attach some scripts into. There's not a lot in the way of scripts at the moment in it. I'll just open it up. It's called My Plate, and it's basically got a cube which has got a texture on it. It's called textures material, and it's got a bounding box, which for some reason we can't see at the moment. But it's in there. Let's click visible. There we go. There we can see it now. And let's just adjust that so it is actually aligned up. There we go. And I made a chainsaw compile. And in the event graph, I've not actually got anything going on at all. I've just got actor, an event, an actor begin overlap event. Right, so there is something that I probably should have talked about in the previous video, which is about nodes and wires, but it's about the flow of control and the flow of data. So that is basically where can you have more than one wire attached to a pin? And there are some places you can and some places you can't. When I first started doing scripting, this confused me until I worked out what you could do and why. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by having some print strings, and I'm also going to have the actor end overlap. So overlap, I'm looking for event actor end overlap. There we go, and that's going to say on, and that's going to say we're going to have another print string here, which is going to say off. Okay, and we'll just quickly compile, and I hope you can see what is intended to happen. You stand on it, it says on, you move off and it says off. Okay, let's go back into the script. Right. Here's something you can't do, which is when you're taking an out, a white line, the control line, the execute line, you can't make it go to more than one node. So if I try and do that, it replaces that one. And the reason is very obvious, which is when you're coming out of here, when execution's going along the line, how do you know which one to do? And if you want to do both, obviously the thing to do is to do them one after another. Okay. However, you can do the opposite, which is for input to a node, you can have two wires connected to one pin. So this will give me on when you do a begin overlap or when I do an end overlap. And let's just quickly show that in the world. Okay. On. I know it doesn't make sense that it's saying on when you're moving off, but it demonstrates the fact that you can have two white wires connected to a pin on an input. You can't have two white wires connected to a pin on the output. The opposite is true for data. So if I reconnect these here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a couple of string literals. So string literal. I'm just going to call these. Let's have 3, and stretch it a bit and do string. I could have just copied the other one, couldn't I? String literal, and I'm going to say 2 for that one. So if I drag from 3 into there, that's fine. If I drag from 2 into there, that doesn't work because it doesn't know which one to use, so it replaces the previous one by doing that. Okay, so on inputs for data wires, you can only have one connected to an input pin, but you can have more than one connection to an output pin. So both of those are connecting to here, and so those strings are going to be the same. They're both going to say 3. So we go in there. So it's fundamentally the opposite for each. So white wires, you can have 2 on an input, but only one. You can have as many as you like actually on an input, multiple on an input, but only one on an output. And the opposite is true for data. You can have as many as you like on an output, but you can only have one on an input. Right, let's get into the kind of the main stuff that I wanted to show you in this video, which is actually about this control flow, this line. So the thing that I've glossed over in the past and haven't really talked about, let's excuse me, put these 2 nodes in a line, is that as execution happens, it goes along the line from left to right, from left to right. When it comes to one where there isn't an output, it then stops. And that's where the script ceases to go any further. Sometimes when you're having things that aren't happening, it's because you've forgotten to connect up. And that's the kind of one of the most basic errors. It's the sort of thing that people still do when they've been programming for quite a long time. It's the sort of thing that can be fairly hard to spot at times, especially if they're, for some reason, kind of all the way here and touching each other, so you can't really see the wire in between, and then you can't see that it's not connected. The smaller that wire is, the harder it is to see that it's missing. But sometimes you don't want things just to go in a straight execution line down the line. So I'm going to show you 4 different ways that you can change the order of execution or things happening. The first one I'm going to show you is a sequence. All right, so I'm going to change these, get rid of these string literals, but I'm going to have 4 boxes here. I'm going to have the words 3, 2. I'm going to create 2 more. One, and my last one is going to say boom. So this is like a bomb. It's a countdown for something. And if I link them up like that, hopefully you can see they'll go 3, 2, 1, boom, and it'll all happen very quickly in a line. And we shall demonstrate that by standing on it. 3, 2, 1, boom. So the text, the order that the lines appear in is upside down from normal writing because it adds them to the top. Okay, let's go back into here. Now, say we had a long script that was going on miles and miles and miles all the way over here. This is theoretically an infinite graph if we want it to be. But we might want to reorganize it. And there's so the first control flow node I want to show is the node sequence. So I'm going to type in sequence here, and this gives us multiple pins off. And what it'll do is it'll send execution down 1 pin. I'm just going to break that. And, let's do it the opposite way around just to actually show what's going on. So let's move 3 and 2 there. Then I'm going to do then. It says then 0, then 1. What it's going to do is in order from top to bottom, it will send execution down, and it'll come down this line. So it should say 1, boom, and then 3, 2, because at that point it jumps back to that node and says, right, what's next? It goes down here and executes down this line, and then it'll jump down, and we can have more pins if we want. We can have them on. So I'm just going to hopefully demonstrate that that's doing exactly what I said. 2, 3, boom, 1, it's upside down. So 1, boom, 3, 2, that's what I predicted. And of course we can do this in different orders. We could attach that one to another pin, and it's running off each line in top to bottom order. Right. The next thing I want to show is probably the most used control flow node, which is branch. So when you first start doing visual scripting in Unreal, and if you've been doing any kind of programming in other languages, you are probably used to the idea that you can do control flow in programs, but you probably use the word if. And it's slightly, I find it slightly frustrating that they've called it branch, not if, because I feel like this should be if, just because of the way I've used other languages. But this takes an input, which is a Boolean, which is, so this is the condition, so it's if it's one thing or if it's another. And we're going to put something in here to change the condition here. So if the input is true, it'll go up the true line, so it gets to the end, and then it stops. If the input is false, it goes down the false line, and then until it stops. Now I've put in a counter integer variable, which I'm just going to highlight. I don't want to go into variables in detail, but this is initialized to the value 3, and each time we go over this, I'm going to well, actually, each time that it's true is what we need to do. I'll just pull that out, that variable out, so I can access it, and I'm going to type in minus minus, and what that does is it allows us to take 1 off an integer. So I'm going to plug that in there. So every time we go in this direction, it's going to take 1 off. And then I'm going to do the condition. I'm going to use the counter again. And I'm going to say if the counter is greater than, and I'm going to put in greater than, so it starts at 3. If it's greater than 1, and that gives us a true or false output. So when counter's 3, that'll be true, and they'll go out that way. So it should say 1, boom. This is, I knew I was going to have trouble by putting these the wrong way around. And I want that to be on the other one. Sorry about this, just do some rearrangement. So it's going to say 3, 2, 3, 2 as it decrements that, and then the next, after that, it's going to say 1, boom, 1 boom if we go over it again. I hope that's true. I've been doing that quite quickly. It's possible I've made logical errors here. So 3, 2, 3, 2, and the next time it should change 1 boom. There we go. Because what's happening is it's counting that thing down as we go in. So this is conditional flow. We've got a condition comes in. If it's true, it goes out the true pin. If it's false, it goes out the false pin. And it continues until it gets to an end and then stops. It doesn't come back to this node at this point. Okay? And conditions are the, as I say, I think they're the most common control flow node. That certainly is the most common one that I use. We can, if we want, remember you can put, you can reroute stuff to 2 inputs to a node. So if you wanted to keep counting down, we could do that. It has no more effect because the counter's only used here to show us what's going on. Right, so the next one I'm going to do is I'm going to do a loop. which is a strange word to use for visual scripting, because it doesn't look like a loop. It doesn't go round in a loop at all. So I'm just going to move those out of the way. I'm going to take that off. That condition is I'm going to make it greater than 0. Okay, so we are going to end up using this, and I'm going to do while. So this is what's called a while loop. There are other kinds of loop, but it's kind of beyond where we're at the moment to show you for each loop. So I'm not going to do that. So this while loop tests a condition, and whilst this condition is true, it keeps going down the loop body. And when it gets to an end, I'm just kind of going to reuse some of this. When it gets to an end, it comes back and rechecks the condition, and then sees if it's going to go down the loop body or completed, which is what it'll do afterwards. So what I want to do is to actually print the counter out. So print string, and I'm going to pull out from there. Remember, you can pull more than one out of more than one data line on an output. I'm demonstrating that here. So I'm going to print the old value and then decrement the value, and then I'm just going to find my boom, bring this over and put that into the completed line. So what this hopefully is going to do is it starts by coming down here, and now it's into the loop. The loop means it'll go round and round this, but it'll check this condition first. So if this condition actually starts by being false, it won't even bother with the loop body, it'll just go down completed. So you could use it if you wanted as a slightly strange branch, but it's not recommended. So this will come down here and it'll print the string, tell you what the counter is. It starts at 3 and it'll take 1 off. Then it'll come back here and check, and it'll check what it is. Well, now it's 2, but it's still greater than 0. So it'll come down here and it'll print 2 and it'll take 1 off. Then it should print 1 and take 1 off. And then at this point, your counter should equal 0. And so greater than 0 is no longer true. And so it'll come out the completed, it'll come to an end and then stop. So it goes 0 to many times down the loop body and once out of the completed. Let's hopefully demonstrate that. So it did, and it does them all in succession. Obviously, it's not successive times walking over. Now, if I walk over another time, it's just saying boom. And the reason why that is because the counter has come down to 0 and it stays at 0 once it's been counted down. We could reset it if we wanted using the actor end overlap, but I'm not going to bother. So the final thing that I want to show you is a switch node, which is kind of a cross between a sequence node and a branch node. Effectively, it's a multiple branch. So let's get rid of some stuff. Yes, I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to use the counter and just get rid of that load there and that wire. So I'm going to have, that's got, that one says hello. 3, 2, 1, yes, that's an extra one, I think. 3, 2, 1, boom. Right. So what I'm going to do is drag off from the counter, and I'm going to type in, let's zoom in so we can see this a bit better. I'm going to type in switch. So there are various ways you can do switches, but I'm going to do a switch on int, which is a fairly useful one. And I'm going to drag off from the event actor begin overlap. What it's going to do is going to choose a path depending on the value of counter. Okay, so it's got a default pin, so this is the one that it'll go down if it doesn't know what to do. So I will have another print string off here, print string. string, and we'll just leave that as hello. But I'm going to add pins for values 0, 1, 2, and 3. So we start at 3 and we count down to 0. And I'm going to use these text versions to actually get it to count down using the words 3, 2. So it doesn't loop round. What it does is it chooses one of these. Where's my boom got to? There it is. Zoom back in again. So 0 is boom. And each time we step onto the plate, it's going to do one of these for all the hello. And we're going to take execution into the thing that decreases. It's called the decrements. Subtract 1. There we go. So let's zoom back out and have a look at that. So we've got, zoom in a bit on the script. We can move that counter around. Right. So every time we overlap, we come down here. It'll look at the value of counter and it'll send it down one of these wires, depending on what the value of counter is. And if it finds a value that it finds a pin for, it will send it down that one. And if it doesn't, it'll go down the default pin. So this should go, start at 3, so it should say 3. The next time it should say 2, then it should say 1. Next time it should say boom, and after that it should say hello. Okay, so let's give that a go and see if it's actually true. 3, 2, 1, boom, hello. And any more, it should just keep saying hello. Right. So, as a quick summary, we've done, what have we done? Well, we've looked at how you can't have 2 output control wires from a node, but you can have 2 input control wires for a node. For data wires, you can have multiple outputs from a node, but you can't have multiple inputs to a node. For control flow, it goes along the line left to right, but we can change the flow by using branch nodes, by using sequence nodes, by using while loop nodes, and by using switch nodes. And that's easily enough for one video, so that's it from me for now.